Hi, everyone. Again, my computer decided to go to sleep. So the last video was Annika, Jada, and Wookie. This one will be Rodney, Dennis, Jack, Justin, Leanne, Michelle, and Yvette. Not in that particular order, because that's your names alphabetized. But they will be in the order that they are listed here on the Facebook page, in case you are confused. We're starting with Rodney and going down. Okay, so Rodney, let's go ahead and redo your critique. I had mentioned that your title looks good, but I want you to head in an even stronger direction. Okay, so see how you have it nice and bold, which is good, but there's not any contrast within itself. And that's one of the things that's really going to elevate your title. So here's a good example of that. See how you have this awesome typeface, nice and big. This is lighter, and it's actually a contrasting typeface, but it pulls your eye in because it's yellow. And then under it, you have this nice line with a blue attribution. So that's one way to really make something like this stand out. So we would have perhaps joining hands with, and then you could have God be really large and go over it or go partially underneath it. You could have joining hands and then with God be a totally different typeface, maybe something like this or a sans serif. And so we can play around with that, but just definitely go bigger. The other thing, when I look at your spread, I'm really confused about the images. I don't know which are the two that you've taken. So I am thinking out of all of these, it would be most likely you've taken this image and this image. But if this is you, then you didn't take that image. So this doesn't look like an image you've taken. So I'm trying to figure it out. It's a bit of a puzzle. So make sure it's clear to me in your design where are the images that you've taken. Another thing I would recommend is not using the same image and just repeating it, because that's a little bit, I don't know, a little bit weird to have that kind of repetition, but not have it make any real sense. So I would get rid of this image behind this one. These two don't really work together anyway. This one looks so beachy, and this is a baby's nursery, so it's a little bit of a mixed message here between these two. So if you want to keep this image on this page, that's great, but I would definitely get rid of it on this one. Remember the power of white space. Having this blank is awesome. Don't feel like you have to fill it. White space doesn't have to be white though. You could work with your color scheme, and right now the most vibrant colors I'm getting are the orange and the green. You kind of match this with your subtitles, which is really good. Make sure your subtitles are the same though. This is totally different because it has a thick white stroke on it and these don't. So I would make sure that you have these subtitles all be the same. And it might work better to have the subtitles be only a few words as opposed to these kind of emphasized portions. So you could, insert a line here that says, turning my heart or something like that, whatever this is about. Okay, another thing is this looks really large for your typeface. You want to keep your typeface maximum of a point size of 12. A 10 or an 11 sometimes looks even bit better because you do want to have that white space. You did a good job on your wrap here. This looks really nice. But over here, it's getting borderline illegible. Well, it pretty much is illegible right here. So I'm not quite sure what you want to do with that. I see on this portion of the page you made it black, which is a good choice. You could do the same thing here, but if you did it on this one, it's probably going to become illegible because of the shadow there. So you could choose another image. If you choose an image you've taken even, you could choose one that is something a little bit more vibrant. Or if you want to match this kind of nursery image you have here, you could insert shapes, just like a nice big orange rectangle that maybe fills a third of the page or a fourth of the page down here and goes all the way across. So play around with shapes, but this image in the background on both sides isn't really doing much for the overall design. So it's okay to get rid of it if it's not really helping you out. This, in terms of the assignment, I'm not sure what this is. I don't know if you have put this poem on this image. If you have, that's totally cool. I just want to make sure it's not something that already came like this and you're just placing it on your design. I'm going to guess no, because this typeface looks like it's the same as this one. So if that's the case, that's great. I would probably increase the amount of space between the edge of the page here and the edge, or the edge of your letters here and the edge of this image. They're super tight. And you want to have a little bit more room to breathe. So I would be sure to bring them over a little bit more. You can't get too much farther because of this mobile, but you can at least get a little bit closer. Okay, so those are some of the things to work on. I like that you made this A super big. I'm going to show you how to do that the way you're technically supposed to, because right now I'm guessing you just made it large. But what you want is you want the top of the A to be aligned with the top of this line. And how you do that is you're going to go into your design software, you're going to just highlight that letter A, and then under the paragraph palette, you're going to see this cool little feature, and it's an A with lines around it. You're going to bump it up to however big you want it. And look how cool, that's probably a little bit too big, but look how cool that looks, because the top of this sits a lot closer to the top of these letters as opposed to having it jut way up above it. Okay, so those are a few things you can work on. Work on the color scheme, contrast. I want to see something that really pops up at me when I first look at this, and increasing the amount of white space. And I think those things are going to help. Okay, so I look forward to seeing your final draft. Thanks, Rodney. All right, next, let's go to the next person who opted in, which would be you, Jack. Perfect. Okay, page 1, page 2. Okay, haven't seen your side. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on with this white space here around it. If that's intentional, I'm going to tell you to get rid of it. Okay, because you have some cool eye-catching things going on here, but the white space is throwing me. And in a way, it's actually, this white space actually isn't acting as white space. Your white space is in here, and this white box is keeping it in. So instead, what you want to do is you want to pull your shapes. You want to pull this black background to the edge of the page, and let this black and brown part with this white circle be what your eye focuses on, instead of this kind of awkward box around it. Okay, so let's see. And then up here, you're making some interesting shape choices, which I like, but just keep on pulling them farther out. You want to take away the hyphens. Watch the video I posted earlier tonight on the first Facebook post for the video. It is, actually, I will have posted 3 by the end of the night, so it's this one. Watch this one, and this will show you how to take off those hyphens. Okay, and that's going to help. And then, let's see. You need to have 2 images that you have taken. All right, so right now, I'm pretty sure you didn't take this one. And also, I mean, you might have taken this one, this other one, but unless this is really hard because it doesn't look like that compelling of an image because of it's kind of washed out, and so in a little bit, you know, faded looking. And so I would try to take an image of something that looks vibrant and is eye-catching. If you want it to be a tombstone because that matches, that's totally fine. But maybe you take a picture of one that looks a little bit more saturated and colorful, or black and white, but the blacks are really deep and dark and interesting. Okay, So there's a way to do that, something that still has a somber subject, but in a way that grabs your attention and makes you want to look at it. You did a really good job with your text wrap here. I would just increase the amount of space, go into that text wrap option box and bump up from, you're probably at like a 0.125, bump it up to 0.25. So you have a little bit more space between the edge of your circle and where your words start. Okay, and then I would probably tell you to get rid of this stroke around this box, like I mentioned in the video. Pull this box so it goes off the edge of the page. That's going to make it look even more modern and contemporary. Pull these so they go off the edge of the page too. And then here's your subtitles. Good job with those. I would love to see these in a contrasting font, something that's going to pop off the page. I'd love to see this in a contrasting font. And I might make this a little bit smaller so it's not quite so close to the edges there. And if you have, see how you have this nice sans or serif down here, you could go with something, maybe a handwritten typeface. Something, it looks like your subject matter is a little bit more serious, so you want to keep that in mind. Maybe something like this. Or you could go with a nice sans serif. Let's see if we can find. Maybe you could go with something like this that would contrast for those subtitles. Or you can go with a sans serif that will contrast with your body copy. Something like this, okay? So play around. I want to see some nice contrasting typography, hopefully on each of the pages. You give me something for my eye to look at. Like this pulled quote, this would be another great place to have contrasting typography. You did italics, and that's a great start, but I want to see a little bit more of that. Also, your pages look tall. They look taller than they're supposed to. Make sure they're 8.5 by 11. Okay, I don't know why, but they're looking stretched upward, like they're a little bit taller than they need to be. Okay, and then the other thing, so we're probably going to need to switch out this image to something that you take yourself. So envision you have a different image here. I would love to see your title even bigger, even bolder, not all the same font and not center aligned. Okay, so look at this awesome example. See how it's large, but the words are actually, they're justified. They start at the same place on the left. They start at the same place on the right. But because you have the attribution here, it's actually a little bit of a right alignment. And you have such an awesome contrast between these huge words, these words that are a little bit lighter, but in a different typeface and then a different color. Okay, so play around a lot. I don't want to see all the same color and all the same typeface and not the same spacing between them. This guy's name, you could put him over to the far right. You could have the resurrection in this typeface, and then of Jesus Christ, even bigger, even bolder. Maybe you pull that sans serif, or you pull one of those handwritten scripts and put it in here. Okay. So you're heading in the right direction. You're making some good choices. I actually like kind of the starkness of the colors. But just keep on working on the overall flow and the contrast with the typeface. And then you might benefit from getting rid of a few paragraphs so you can actually add in more white space, okay? So white space is pretty important. So keep on working on that too. But you're heading in the right direction. I'm excited to see what you come up with, Jack. Okay, Yvette, you are next. Let's see, Safe Haven. Okay, fun. Okay, remember you have to take these images yourself. I don't think you've taken this image yourself, unless you did. Okay. Oh, I used Illustrator. Cool, good for you. You're jumping ahead. You must already have Illustrator skills. Okay, so I like that you did this. This is an awesome choice, and it's very creative. You have good kind of eye-catching initial letter here. The stroke on it, I will admit, is not my favorite. Strokes are usually kind of dated on words, and so I might get rid of it and just see if it looks as strong. It might not pop out as much. That might be the reason that you've decided to do that. But it doesn't look like you have the stroke over here, and I actually like that a lot better. It probably just blends into the background because the background is lighter. You did a good job with the circles and with your text wrap. I really like that. I might do something a little bit different. Maybe you need to make this O a little bit bigger because this looks awkward down here just having with my own be underneath the O. So maybe you make the O a little bit bigger so it matches the whole height of this paragraph, or make it smaller so you have 2 lines underneath it. This is almost acting as a widow because there's so much space over here. Okay, I would probably increase the amount of space between your subheadings and the paragraph because see how close they are? They're overlapping a little bit, and that looks kind of awkward. Okay, let's see if there's anything else. I'm on the fence about the gradient in the background. Sometimes they can look nice, but they've just been used a lot. So it might be better to go with a solid color in the background. Try a white and then get rid of the stroke on the subtitles and see if you like it better. Or try a yellow, perhaps, this. And then you could leave these subtitles the green, unless it looks like too much color. And so, and here's your pulled quote, all the worthwhile. Okay, and I would bump this, she brought us joy, up here. Okay, so you have this one intro line with the sentence. But you're definitely on the right track. I might make her name a little bit smaller so it's not overlapping here on this line. And so just keep on heading in that direction. Play around with it a little bit more. It does look a little bit muted, which is okay if that's the look you're going for. But it might be fun to see a little bit more, maybe the door a little bit brighter, and then you could do something a little bit more bright in the background. So play around with the color a little bit, see if there's something that might work a little bit better, and make sure you allow some room for white space, which I'm trying to figure out where we could get some white space in. The columns are they pretty much fill the whole page. You could maybe pull this into the middle here and then allow to have some white space at the bottom. But I do love having this image so large, and I like having this image so large too. So play around with it a little bit, see if you can introduce some white space into it at least somewhere. Okay, thanks Yvette. Look forward to seeing your final. Okay, Laura. Michelle. Okay, Michelle, you opted in. Okay. Oops. All right, and I'm going to assume you took these images. Friendly reminder if you didn't. Hopefully you watched the earlier video where I talk about getting rid of the stroke on your shapes, which would make me oh so happy to not have those on here. And then I would tidy this up down here on the bottom. See where it's overlapping here? I like that you did these lines, but they're sticking off the edge of where they need to be. So zoom in super duper close and then pull this up so it's perfectly aligned with the edge of your image. This is also neat. I don't know if you meant this to not be straight though. And it looks like it's such a small line, such a small angle that it's an accident. So if you meant this to be a straight arrow pointing down, I would go in and pull this so it is actually completely parallel to the edge of the page. If you want it to kind of flare outward, I would make it a little bit more extreme. Okay. Definitely, I think you need some paragraphs in here because this is really bulky looking to read. And I would pull this down so it's not right on the edge of your image. You need a little bit of breathing room between these two. I like this typeface, and I like this typeface. This one, well, this is the same. The sans serif is the same, I'm imagining. But the happily and the after is used a lot. So please find something more creative for me here on thefont.com, okay? Because that one, I see it, I think I've seen it like 10 times so far tonight. Okay, so add some variety, do something a little bit different. I know we select this one because we're like, oh, it contrasts really well, which it does. It's just overused. Okay, so go ahead and try to find something different for me. And then this looks a little bit awkward down here because this is center aligned and this is left aligned. So I would probably make the choice, and also this looks like it says president. This looks like this is not spelled correctly. It's a little bit small for me to read, but make sure this is spelled correctly. And you probably should just put his name, Dieter F. Uchtdorf, instead of president. And then if you're making a choice to center align, which I usually don't recommend, I would also center align this. But instead, I think it would look even better if you could left align it here and keep a little bit more space between this purple line and this green, or a little bit more space between this purple line and this H. You're going to pull it out a little bit so it's not so close, but have a strong left align down the center. I think that would look good. Okay, and then let's look at your other pages. Okay, I like this image. Just got to make sure you took it. Okay, Michelle, hopefully you did. And then I like that you have it centered and the white looks good in the background. You have your subheadings, but no paragraphs. Got to break these into paragraphs. It's super hard to read. You also need to send this shape to the back because right now your font is behind it. And so it's making your typeface hard to read. So make sure you send that to the back. Okay, so that's like, let's see. Here are your layers. You can go into your layers and I can't remember off the top of my head what this is called, but you would grab, say it's this one, you would grab it and you would pull it underneath your type. Okay, so grab that shape, this shape on your layers palette and pull it down so it goes underneath your writing. And your writing also needs to have more space between your shape and the edge. So see how here you have like these circles? There is some breathing room between the edge of the image and where the writing begins. So when you do your initial wrap around object shape, it's going to give you some options and you're going to increase the size of it and make it farther from the edge of the image to the letters, okay? And that's when you initially put on that text wrap, but you should be able to go back in and to increase it as well. I would add some space between the edge of this paragraph and between your subheadings, okay? Because right now this is so just like discouraging. Nobody will want to sit and read this since it's all one big, huge paragraph. So you need to add some additional white space in there. And I would recommend taking off this black stroke from your circle as well. Okay, and then let's look at your last page. I like that you're doing the same shape again. That's great. Same message. Same exact same things we need to work on as before, okay? If you have to, get rid of a bunch of it so you can have white space. Very important you have white space on your design, and so you can break it into subheadings and have proper paragraphs. Okay, thanks, Michelle. All right. Leanne, you are next. Okay, women are glue. change this. Oh, fun. I like that you did something really different with your shapes in your background. That's great. I would make this blue box a lot bigger because see how your letters are on the exact edge of it? So you don't want to have that. That's called a tangent, when two different elements kind of conflict on the edge of the word. Okay, so you're going to pull this blue shape up so it has some additional padding between the edge of it and the edge of the box. Okay, I think that your words are probably too close to the edge too. Make sure you have a good 0.5 inches between the edge of your paragraph and the edge of the page. And then I'm going to say, I think you probably added this triangle here because you had this empty, awkward white space. Instead, what you want to do is you want to pull your paragraphs up. So you have your paragraphs centered a little bit more in the page, and you have more white space down here at the bottom, a little bit more space in the middle for your page fold, and you don't have to feel like you have to awkwardly fill with a triangle. Okay, because this is where your eye goes to, which is awesome. But you want to make sure you're not just adding elements, and that will totally be helped by bringing these things in a little bit closer together. These look super solid because you did your justification, which looks awesome, and you don't have any hyphens, which is a really good start. Okay, so I would pull in, get more white space, increase the amount of space between your text wrap and where the words start. And that's on that text wrap feature, you're going to increase it. This is probably a 0.125 to a 0.25. And that way your T, for example, isn't going to be bumping up against a stroke on this. I would also remove the stroke from this image, and that's going to help it look a lot more contemporary and kind of just instantly jump into your white background without having this kind of break in the transition. Okay, let's look back at your title. I think here we need to do a few things. It feels a little awkward to me to have this kind of going along the edge of the water. Instead, I would make this image larger so it goes off the edge of the page. You could crop it so it's just her and the fountain and is a nice long image that goes across and has white space above it. And then it has these two initial paragraph chunks kind of centered with white space below them and white space above them. I would do something different with your title. Since you could make this a long and thin image and get rid of some of the grass, you could then have your nice title be up here on top. Women are glue. If you want to do something creative with the glue, you could have it overlap the top of this image and go bigger with these words, okay? I want to see them something that really flies off the page when you look at it. And then by Sharon Eubank could be underneath it to the side. Make sure they're either left aligned or right aligned. And I would take this black stroke off the word glue too. Okay, so play around a little bit with that. This is a page that needs a little bit more structure to it and needs a little bit more cohesion. So it doesn't feel, I know your choice to put the words here was intentional, but it feels just a little bit off kilter. And so I would go with bigger, bolder. Think about this title, bigger, bolder, contrasting typefaces, and a nice solid background where they jump out at you. And that really helps this. Okay. Thanks, Leanne. I look forward to seeing your edits in your final submission. All right. Justin. All right, Justin, let's take a look at your submission. Okay, so I see you have some repeating elements, which is fun. You have a solid brown background. First thought is not a lot of white space, okay? We got to work on adding that in somewhere. You did a good job inserting the shape. The text wrap is square around it, though. So we want to make sure that the text wrap follows the edge of the circle. All right, so see how you have your image, and here's your bounding box. Now you don't want to wrap around that. You want to double click, and so you have the actual circle selected, and then you're going to wrap around the object shape, okay? So try that, and that's going to let you wrap around this circle, which is going to be great. Remember, for your images, they both need to be taken by you. So I need to see 2 images that you have taken on this submission, okay? Another thing that we can work on is increasing that white space, and that might mean that you need to cut down this actual article, which is totally fine. So what you could do is you could go in and you could eliminate some of the, let's see, for more, go to da-da-da. Good. Okay, but we need to eliminate more of that because we need to make white space on the page. So say we get rid of this whole last section, for example. And then that's going to give you a little bit more room to have maybe one page where you have just a column of type down the side. You increase the circle that your text is wrapped around, and then a third of the page is just nice and white and empty. Okay, up here, one thing that's happening is you do have some space here, but everything else is really trapped in with this pink box. And so I think one thing that could help is making your title a lot bigger. So say we take this circle and let's make it a square that goes off the edge of the page. And then your title is going to get about 20 times bigger. Okay, maybe not 20 times, maybe 10 times bigger. So you have complete and then honesty. I would probably prefer not using this font because it looks a little too like hamburger stand 1950s to me. Go to defont.com and you can download one of these, hopefully, that will kind of help it look a little bit more contemporary. Oh no, I just X'd out of your, where'd you go, Justin? Okay, sorry. Okay, so download one of those and you can use that. That will hopefully help kind of elevate it. I think that font is Magneto, and it's just used a lot, so we want to add a variety. So do complete and then honesty in a super cool script typeface, okay? And then unselfish, and then humility in the same typeface, just like you did here, but much bigger. I want you to almost fill the entire page like this with your title, okay? That's really going to help give your eye somewhere to gravitate toward when you initially look at the image. This is a very small little image. I'm not sure what it is, and I would get rid of it, especially if it's something you haven't taken. If it's an image you've taken and it matches with this, you need to make it a lot bigger, okay? So that's one of the things a lot of people have a problem with when they start designing is they make things really small. So push yourself and make things super big, super eye-catching. Look at this temple. It takes up probably half of the page, okay? So that's one thing that's going to help elevate your design. This does have a box around it, so it can work in some circumstances, but then look at how the other pages are white and they don't. So that gives you that feeling of white space, okay? So play around with that a little bit. I do like that you have these hearts in here. That's fun. That's probably a custom shape that you made, but I wouldn't put them in every corner on every page. I would put 1 or 2 or 3, well, probably 3 because things look good in pairs, in groups of 3 on this corner. And then on the next page, maybe 1 or 2 and do a text wrap around them. Okay, so you add some variety so they don't all look the same. And then I'm assuming this is your subtitle. This is a little bit too close to your body copy. See how the Y is overlapping with the L? You want to bring it up a little bit so it's not overlapping like that. And the best way to do that is instead of inserting a text box, is just add your subtitles in to the actual body copy, okay? And that'll kind of help eliminate that problem of placement and keeping it consistent. Because you don't need to have on every page a subtitle. You just want it to fall naturally in where your story is divided. So maybe retrospection would be right down here, and you'd have a space after diseases, you'd have your subtitle, a small space, and then you jump into that section about it. Okay, so that's one thing that you could do to kind of help these feel a little bit different. Your goal is not to have every page be the same. Your goal is to have every page have similar feeling but different elements. So you have different images, you have different, you have the same color scheme, but you have different colors. So maybe you have pink on this page with yellow. On another page you have brown and green, and this you have the green subtitles repeating. So they don't all have to be the exact same. So I would probably change the background color on one of these at least, and that would help break it up a little bit too. Okay, so play around with some of those things. Remember, contrast is going to be your best friend. Go bigger than you think you need to, and get a little bit more bold with some contemporary fonts, and make sure you have 2 images that you have personally taken, and that will get you headed in the right direction. Okay, thanks, Justin. I look forward to seeing your final submission. All right, Dennis, you are my last person. You have submitted on iLearn, so we're going to check you out there. And you should probably download this so I can look at it all at the same time. All right. Oh, good. I'm glad you downloaded it. Oh, wait. I have to extract it. See, this is why it's better to do it on Facebook. This makes a lot of extra steps. But for Ninja Warrior, going above and beyond, Call of Duty. Okay, please open. Here we go. All right, there we go. Life isn't fair. Okay, just leave me alone. All right. These are your 2 images you took yourself. Okay, remember what I just said on the other videos, if you've had a chance to watch those, is to not have a stroke around everything. So if you will do me an awesome favor, go in to every shape, every image, take off the strokes. That's going to help a lot. Okay, this page is off to a good start, but the spacing on the title is a little bit awkward. This also looks like you have a few different typefaces going on, 1, 2, 3. So I might narrow it down to 2 that you really like. If you definitely want to use 3, I wouldn't use this one because it's kind of a cheesy looking one that's been around for forever. So hopefully that wasn't too harsh, but we want to change this one to something that looks more contemporary, okay? We also want to eliminate the spacing. If you want to keep this at this slant, you can make it even bigger. I recommend keeping this the same size and making these bigger. You want them to go across the width of the page, and then you can have but be of good cheer in this same font, left aligned or right aligned with the R, the edge of the R, or the edge of the L. And so this title spreads across the page and is bigger. Take this and make it probably 2 times bigger, but tighter, so you don't have these awkward space in between, and so it's not center aligned. I like what you're doing with this B. I'm going to show you the correct way to actually do that when you're in the InDesign program. Instead of just making the letter itself bigger, 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 which is a good thought because that's what a lot of people do in magazine articles, the way they actually do it is they come in here, they go to paragraph, and under this little tool, you're gonna, oh, it's doing it over here because this is the beginning of that paragraph. Okay, so Heather, this is a good example. Here's the beginning of the paragraph. Okay, see how it's making that N but it's making it within the paragraph. So that's what you want to do to have the same cool effect that you're going for. Where's your download? Here we are. That you're going for. Okay. I like that you have the blue that's popping out with your subtitles. Make sure you have at least 3 subtitles. I only see that one so far. And then I would probably get rid of this black line around this and make sure your hyphens are deselected. And it looks like you might benefit from making the typeface a little bit smaller as well. You want to keep the typeface between 10 and 12 maximum. Over here we have a little bit of a problem because there's a lot going on. You have circles, you have triangles, you have these images, your actual body copy is spread across the page. So pretend that everything is gone except the pictures you most want and your writing. Where would you put the pictures you most want? One of the tips is that you want to take one of your most important pictures and make it 3 or 4 times larger than you think you would. So let's say that you are going to maybe get rid of this image for simplicity's sake, or get rid of, I don't know, see, you have to have 2 you've taken, which are these 2. But you also need to kind of simplify what's going on here. So I'll let you figure that out. But say you want this image to be even bigger. You're going to make this image take up half of one of your pages. It's going to be super large. That's going to force you then to have 2 nice, tidy columns that you will then interrupt by doing a text wrap around your pulled quote. So you'd put your pulled quote in the middle. You could get rid of this circle, the black circle around it, because it's not quite the exact same shape anyway. So say you get rid of the black circle, you just have the white circle with no stroke on it in the center here. And then you have a big, huge, lovely image to look at and 2 nice, tidy columns with a pulled quote in the middle of them. That would keep this page looking much more simple, but eye-catching because this image is going to jump out to you. Then over here, if you want to still play around with your color scheme, which I'm assuming is kind of a yellow and a blue, you could have this triangle in the corner, or you could have a yellow triangle so it matches your title page. And then you have maybe 1 long column down the side. So you have some variety, but you're keeping things aligned, okay? Because there's not a lot of alignment. Everything is all over the place. Remember, if you have a ruler, you need to be able to hold your ruler up to your computer screen and see how the edges of things go together. And right now, the edge of this doesn't match the edge of that. Maybe it kind of does, but over here you have a column, but this image is over here. These are confusing, so try to really work on alignment. I think that's going to help you. And also simplify, let your white space work to your advantage, okay? And feel free to send me a second draft if you want to, and I'll see how you're doing and we'll go from there, okay? So sounds good. Thanks, Dennis. I hope you did well at Ninja Warrior. And I think that's a wrap for the night. We'll talk to you all later. Good luck.